Hi guys, welcome to my new video. In this video, I'm going to tell you the meaning of static variable when in C and in Java. So the static variable is not like a normal variable. So why it is not like normal variable? I can show you by some examples here. Firstly, I want to discuss the static variable in C. So in C, what happened is when you were dealing with some functions, suppose a function should contain a variable, and after finishing this function executing, when you will finish the execution of this function, the variable's value should be destroying with the destroying of the functions. So I'm giving you an example of this. This is suppose you have a main function. It is a main in C, okay, and we have a function here, okay. So you are calling this function from main two times, yeah, because you will get the clear pictures of it. So yeah, it has, suppose it has a variable I is equal to 5, okay. Now you are printing the value of I, okay. You are incrementing the value of I. Can you guess this output? Yeah, it is quite simple, because the output should be the output should be 6 for the first function calling, and 6 again for the first function calling. So why it gives 2 times 6 is, for the first time when you are calling a function, when the function is destroying here, it removes the previous value of I, okay. That's why the second time it gives the value 6 again, okay. uh, Now what the static variable is doing is, suppose you want to declare this variable with the static keyword. The static keyword helps the compiler to preserves the previous value of any variable. So when you are declare a variable with the static keyword, it helps the compiler to preserve its value. So for the first time, when the function is calling, it gives 6, it is clear, okay. It gives 6 for the first function calling. For the first time it gives 6, but now for second, the second time when it's calling the function, what happen is it preserves the previous value of I, that is 6. So this line should be ignored, because compiler know we are already preserving this value of I, okay. So this line should be execute, and it gives the 6, it gives 7. So for the second time when you will execute the function, it gives you 7. So you can clearly notifying it that when you first time calling this function, it gives 6 6, the second time it gives you 6 and 7. So this is the benefit of using the static keyword in C, because it helps the user to keep the previous value of any variable. So this is the thing, and one more thing is that is, in C, the local variables contains, if I don't initialize, what happen is, in C, if I declare a variable I, and we are not initializing any value into I, so that time the I's value should be a garbage value, because we are not initializing any value. But if I declare a variable with a static, that times it helps, it stores the value of I defaultly with 0. So if I print this value here, I'll not get any garbage value, I get the value of I, that is 0. So the static variables defaultly initialize 0 like global variables, okay. So these things you have to remember. One more thing is, how do you deal with the static variable, is how do you initialize some value into a static variable. So when initializing, when you want to initialize a static variable, the one thing you have to remember that you can't use any mathematical expressions to initialize a static variable. Suppose you can't initialize a static variable like that. You can't initialize a static variable like that. Okay, so it gives it a wrong way. Okay, and even you can't initialize a static variable by a function. Suppose if a function it returns some value and you want to store on the static variable, so this is also a wrong way. So how do you initialize a static variable is you have to use a mathematical expression for it, that is mathematical constant for it, sorry, a mathematical constant, literally you can probably say, that is 6 or anything else, any these things. By this way, by using constant literal, you have to set the value of a static variable. Okay, so that's all about the static variable in C. So there is more about the static in like you can declare a method by the static. So what is the static method in C? So you know some access specifier, some modern languages like C++, Java, there is access specifier. So static variables is also behaving like access, somehow access specifier in C. So what does that mean is, suppose you are declaring a function like fun is here. So you are declaring this with the static keyword. So this time what happen is, when you're declaring a variable, a function with the static, that helps the compiler, that helps the users as well, that you can't access this function from outside of that program. Means you have there is no accessibility of this function by the to others program. So what happen is, in C every program is a global by default. Means you can access other programs function from your program. But if you declare a method by the static variable, static keyword, that times you can't access this method outside of this function, outside of any from any other program. So this restrict the users, this restricts to other people to access your function. So suppose you are trying to access this function from from your console. That time you are writing this t.c .taste.c. So this time you'll get some error where the t is the other program, and taste is the program which contains a static method. So these things you have to remember when dealing with the static in C. That's clear. Now comes to Java. So what are the static keyword? What is the static variable in Java? So you know, in Java are dealing with two types of memory when you are when initializing a value of it. So which are the two values? Just hold on 1 second. I will give. So in Java, what happened is, sorry for some outside noise were coming. That's why I just shut my doors off. So okay, that's clear. How the Java compiler is treating with the variables. I am giving you an example. Suppose you have a normal variable I is equal to 5. This is a normal variable. So Java uses two types of memory. One is stack memory, and one is heap memory. So when Java uses stack memory for function calling, Java using stack memory. For some normal variable, Java using stack memory. The stack memory is just temporary memory. Okay, so when you are using when JVM will use the stack memory, the value of this variable or this function will destroy when it is not more executing. When it is not more required. So it will be temporary memory. but it does not depend on the program, it does not depend on the lifetime of the program. But when you are dealing with the heap memory, the heap memory contains the value until the programming till the programming is executing. Okay, so it consumes the value until the end of the program, until the end of the execution of the program. So when Java using heap memory, when you are dealing with some objects, uh, static, that time Java using the heap memory. So clearly, uh, that is clear. Okay, so suppose you have a variable, this is static I is equal to 5. Okay, remember one thing, when you are declaring a variable with a static keyword, it means you are making this variable to unique to every other object the currently having with this class. Okay, suppose you have a two object, you have two objects, namely object obj is one of your class and obj2 is a class. Okay, and now if you want to print the value of I, like observe I, what you will get is you'll get 5. Okay, it is clear, because you are initializing the static with the value 5. Okay, now you are trying to modify this value by this object is equal to suppose 6. Okay, if you want to print this value again, then what you will get, you'll get again 6, you'll get 6. It is quite simple, because you are modifying this value with this object and you will get this value. So these things are clear. Now what do you want to do? Suppose you want to print again the value of I, but with another object, with other object the currently having. Now what you will get? Yeah, you are right, you will get 6 here again. Why? You can arise a problem, you can arise your questions that I'm modifying the value of I with this object obj, but not with the obj1, but still why I'm getting the value of I is 6. Because as I previously told, the static variable should be unique to, should be common to all other objects currently having. So if you make a modifications with one object with the static variable, this modification should reflect with every other object currently having. So if you want, you are making a modifications here, so this modification will reflect to object 1 here also, so you'll get the value of 6. Now one thing you have for the better clarification, if I remove this, okay, if I remove the static keyword from here, then what I'll get, I'll get the value of I object 1 is 5. It is quite simple. Okay, second line I'm modifying this value of I, which is 6, so I'm getting 6 here. It is okay, but at the when I'm printing the value of I with other object, this modification should not reflect here. Okay, so the values I should be as previous when I declared the value, when I initialize the value of I, that is 5. This modification, the every others object modification should not reflect here. Okay, is it clear? So this is the way the static variable are used in Java. Okay, there is some more about the static variable. That is, you can't declare a static variable inside a function. So suppose you have a function like, okay, here, and if you want to declare a static variable, static I is equal to 5, you'll get an error here, because you can't declare a variable inside of any function, whether it is static or non-static, it does not matter. Okay, every time you'll get an error, so you have to declare a static variable outside of any method. Okay, that's clear. And yeah, one more thing is, I can tell you that if you want to access a non-static variable, suppose it is a non-static variable, And if you want to access this non-static variable from a static class, a static method, so this time you'll get an error, because in Java you can't access a non-static property, a non-static property of a class from a static property. Okay, so you will get an error here if I want to print the value of a year. Okay, so these things are clear. This is the way Java dealing with the static. The static you should always remember the static are providing the common memory space for every other object in Java. So these things you should clear in mind. Uh, don't messing it with C static. C static is completely different, and Java static is completely different. So that's all from this video. I just want to yeah, if you get something wrong in my video, just ping me up. I'll try to correct this wrong. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and please do some suggestions. How do I make how do I make better video in future? And yeah, thanks for watching again.